On today's episode of the Data Trek, we have Suxi Li on. He is the head of data analytics at Investors Business Daily in Los Angeles, California. We're going to discuss building teams, onboarding through COVID-19, some interview tips, and some other interesting topics. Enjoy the show. Suxi, thanks for joining. Feel free to tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Arash. My name is Suxi Li. I'm head of data analytics at Investors Business Daily. Investors Business Daily, also known as IBD, is a private company founded by legendary investor William O'Neill in 1984. The company focuses on U.S. stock market and provides educational content and stock research with a mission to help investors make more money in the stock market.
So we should all be subscribing so we can make some more money.
Sure. Actually, I learned a lot since I joined IBD, and there's a lot of very useful content, and they developed a really good methodology to guide investors to navigate the stock market. So I'm sure everyone can learn from the content provided by IBD.
I definitely need some help, so I need to sign up ASAP.
About my background, I obtained PhD in economics from University of Miami in 2008. After that, I worked for a few different companies, including JD Power, Experian, Nationwide Insurance. And then during those years, I accumulated extensive experience in data science, business insights, market research across various industries. And I joined IBD in 2018. Since then, I have built a centralized data and analytics department to support content, product, marketing, and ad sales divisions with reporting, analysis, actionable insights so that the business can make smart decisions. I'm also in charge of enterprise data strategy, big data platform, and developing machine learning and AI initiatives at IBD.
Very interesting. I'm sure your economics degree let you kind of figure out the stock market side a little bit easier. I was curious, are you guys working on any interesting projects right now that you could share?
Sure. So yeah, definitely, I'm always interested in stock market, but what we do on a daily basis is not focused on stock market. Actually, our focus is on our, investors, our subscribers. So we are a digital business with subscription. So what we're trying to help is how can we help our, investors better understand the market and navigate it and make more money. And one project we have right now, which we're working on, is Smart Paywall. So IBD is a publisher. We have content team produce, tons of content, and we publish on the website. And then we have millions of, visitors to the website. And as a business, we want to show that there's a lot of value in those content. And then like any other publisher out there today, users can read our content. And then after maybe a few sessions or a few articles, we want to show them a paywall and say, hey, if you want to get more, hey, please subscribe. And that is basically our business model,
Right.
And how to build this smart paywall, actually, it's very, very important business initiative for us. And it touches on a few different things. One is how can we make sure that we have the technology to support that? And the second is we need to make sure we have the right data at the right place when we try to make the right decision. Third is we need to build up a machine learning algorithm so that we can identify the user, who is more ready, than other folks to make the jump to start to subscribe.
How long has this project been going on, and how long do you anticipate it taking to complete?
We started this project since last year. We've been working on this for, I think, almost about a year. So we developed different phases. So it's now like we're going to get there, through one push. It's a long project. We started with, crawling, and we built up the basic foundation. What's the technology we need to build it up? And that's a decision about whether we can actually just use a vendor for this, or we need to build up our internal capability. We decided to build it up by ourselves because there's a lot of data elements. If we don't have that data foundation, there's nowhere we can get to the right smart paywall.
Makes sense. And I guess to handle a project of this scope, that's already taken a year, you have to have a strong team behind you to help do a lot of the heavy lifting. So I was curious, when you go about building your team, obviously you need different skill sets, different talents to be able to get the right composite of a group together to accomplish, different projects. So what's your philosophy and what do you do when you are building out your team? Like, what are you looking for to kind of round out that group?
Yeah, that's really a good question. So, as I mentioned before, I built up this centralized team. I pretty much hired everyone, of my current team. And to build out a team, basically, there's a few things we need to decide. One is the business needs, right? What are the most urgent business at that moment, and where we are in terms of the data analytic maturity of the business. We cannot just start with data scientists, because I know data scientist is very, in high demand, and we do have data scientists, but that's not the first position I hired. So the first few positions I hired focused on, okay, get our data ready, get our report up and running, and start to build up some basic metrics, understand what can we get some actionable insights from the data, and also shore up the team that captures the data. So my team is very diverse, and it covers the end-to-end data solution, from data capture, right, data processing, engineering, to reporting, deep dive analysis, to data science, machine learning. So this is a very diverse team, and we started from foundation.
You feel like you went that path because I know a lot of data scientists spend a lot of their time cleaning data and having that, like you mentioned, a good foundation of where we're getting data from, how we're getting it. With that there, then it made their job coming in easier and more efficient. Is that kind of, did you set them up a little bit better to focus more on, the modeling business aspects of things rather than doing a lot of the data cleaning?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a better usage of their talent, right? And also, if you think about a data scientist, if you ask the data scientist to do data cleaning most of the time, and that is not very satisfactory for them, right? Also for their career development and the value they can generate for the business.
It makes sense. And I was curious. I know, the one aspect I think when people are looking to build out a team, it's when do you make that next hire? Is it being reactive, knowing that, I'm underwater now, or do you try to be as proactive as you can be, looking at the project, forecast and looking at kind of your resources and then saying, hey, I might need one or two extra people on board to accomplish the business goals?
Yeah, ideally, we want to be more proactive, right? Project what's coming and plan for that. I think that's ideal situation. However, reality is sometimes a lot of other constraints, the budget, right? If we cannot function that way, sometimes we have to basically also be a little bit reactive to catch up sometimes, right? But generally speaking, yes, I would like to be proactive, so position the team in such a way so that they can keep driving the business forward.
When it comes to budgeting, I know it's sometimes difficult to advocate to get an extra headcount, especially when you feel like your team needs it and it really could help drive the business forward. In your experience, when you've had to do that, has it been a lot of wrestling with upper management or whoever, kind of CFO maybe to get that budget? Or what's your typical strategy going into that ask? I'm hoping it comes with a lot of data back support, but what's your strategy when you're trying to go into getting an extra headcount or maybe extra headcounts?
Actually, I'm very lucky because my boss, the president of the company, really see the value of data and data analytics, so that it's relatively easier for me to ask for that budget, because that's basically the direction we're going and the investment we're making. Even with that, my strategy is step by step, right? It's built up over time. It's not like, okay, we'll just hire, or five data scientists at the same time. it never worked in that way. It's basically what I do is I will lay out a plan, usually like, okay, what's the plan for this year, right? Based on the business objective. If we want to deliver that, what are things we need to work on? Can be, okay, we need to shore up our data platform, right? Okay, we need some data engineering resource, or we need more data scientists, right? We build up that plan, communicate that plan to my boss, make sure we're on the same page, right? And then we start to, hire those folks. A lot of times it's like, okay, we have some focus at a certain time period. We hire a data scientist, and then after on board, make sure it's working, and then we hire the next role. And that's how we approach that. Because IBD is a relatively small company, and we are very cautious about, what kind of role we want to bring to the team. We want to make sure that every role bring to the team will generate value for the business.
Yeah, it's that team atmosphere and culture definitely is important. Michael Jordan has a good quote. He says, talent wins games, but teamwork wins championships. So, you only are as strong as the team members you have. And I guess another interesting thing, especially right now with the COVID situation, when you guys are onboarding people to the team, it's a little bit different when you can go, in the office and say, hey, this is Jill or Bill, and introduce to the different team members, and they kind of meet everybody in person. What are you guys doing? What are you seeing as the challenges onboarding remotely right now?
So I think, yeah, many companies have that challenge, but this is probably better than we thought. Yeah, initially we were thinking, oh my God, now we need to onboard the team virtually. How can we handle that? I think it turns out it's probably better than we expected. But of course, we need to modify our process a little bit. And a few things we did. One thing is now for my direct report, because we don't have that opportunity to meet frequently in person, I scheduled more touch base on our calendar. So before the COVID-19, I will probably just do one touch base on weekly basis, right? Now I do two or three. And over the phone, through the Zoom meeting, make sure that I can give sufficient support to the new member. And also, I gave the new member a list of folks that they need to talk with. Can be, the head of other department, some key members that we interact with on a regular basis. Make sure that they get to know each other, right? So that and we can keep moving. Another thing I think we did is now we start to have more like formalized the team meeting. Before this, right, we probably do maybe once 2 weeks like team meeting. Now we do much more frequent team meeting. We have weekly team meeting, and every other day we have a stand-up team meeting so that we can share with each other what you're working on, right? Or what are the bugs, and then give a chance for the team to interact with each other.
Do you feel like that kind of system, if it was applied when folks go back to the offices, if that happens, do you find that to be more productive and more efficient? It sounds like the main change has been having a lot more touch bases because you can't kind of run through people in the office. And I'm curious if sometimes having gaps between those touch bases lends people to kind of maybe, go off into the woods a little bit more than maybe you'd like, or maybe they would want to go on their own, and kind of that frequency of touching base has made things better from a efficiency standpoint.
I think so. I think it helps us to keep track of what's going on with the development. Actually, the business is very busy with COVID-19. I know a lot of business has suffered, but we have a lot of more traffic to our website, more subscribers, because the market, stock market up and down, people are concerned about their 401k, their investment, and a lot of new investors jump into the market. So actually, we are very busy. We're expanding, and we have new initiatives coming out. I think the frequent touch base helps us to make sure we're on the track. Everyone is on the same page about the fast moving projects.
So do you think once you guys go back into the office, if that happens, you're going to keep this same kind of schedule?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think so. and maybe a different format, right? So maybe we'll do, okay, more like in person in the office. But who knows, given the current situation, I don't see that we're going to back to office very soon.
Yeah, I agree with that. But now it sounds like you guys have a good plan in place to help onboard new members and make them feel a part of the team, which is always nice because being a newbie is, it's tough sometimes.
Yeah, can be overwhelming. Yes.
Yes, very true. So I guess when you guys are onboarding, obviously interviews now have become remote. How has that process changed, if any? And then what are you seeing in the actual, I guess, interview on the Zoom versus in person? Are there any tips you can give people to kind of do better while they're doing a Zoom interview?
Yeah, I had a few Zoom interviews, and I think pretty much, you want to treat the Zoom interview as, same as in person, interview. Because if you go to the office, you have the in-person interview, you tend to dress up a little bit, right? Be a little bit more formal. And for the Zoom interview, I think you want to also, treat it like, okay, this is an interview, right? I want to dress up a little bit, be informal, and to show that you really care about this, you prepare for this, you take this interview serious. That is my take. I know some people have different opinion on that, but I tend to be, I think, yeah, that gave me a good first impression, right?
Yeah.
And we can start this conversation. And also, I think it's better, if when you do the Zoom interview, you want to have sit in a quiet room, and you don't the background sometimes, right? You just be a little mindful about your background. Sometimes that can be disturbing of the conversation.
Okay. And I guess when people are discussing their background and stuff like this, I think you'd mentioned before we chatted that, that's a key area for you to assess somebody's ability to communicate, not just technically, because I think that comes through in either whiteboard sessions or kind of just maybe their overall background, maybe from education and whatnot. So I guess when you're getting presented backgrounds, what are you looking for in the communication of those ideas of their projects they've worked on and things like that?
Personally, I tend to look into some like details. I'm a data person. I'm very hands-on in terms of data and analytics. So usually my way of assessing a candidate is I tend to ask detailed questions about how they handle project. Let's say on the resume, the candidate mentioned a few different projects. I just pick out one that's relevant, and I start to ask, questions about that project. What's the background? What's the business question we're trying to address here? What's your rationale of developing the approach? Where you get the data, right? How you handle the data? What's the process of cleaning the data? How you handle the missing data? Then when you do the modeling, then why you choose that model? What's the approach you go with the model, and how you interpret the results? What's the impact, right? What's the insights? So I think by asking those detailed questions, I can have a good understanding on how the candidate actually handle those projects, their analytical thinking capability, whether they're hands-on, whether they have some technical, like good, solid background to do the job. But that's just my approach.
Sure. Do you hear people a lot of times actually bring up the business why of what they've done? Or I'm assuming the result sometimes comes through in conversations, but the actual why, do people explain that enough in your opinion?
Sometimes, yeah, but not always. I think sometimes people don't have a really good understanding, right, on why, why a project, is handled in such a way, and what is a broad picture, right? And what's the relationship between this project and the, let's say, the overall business goal we want to drive here. But I think that's very important for any analyst or data scientist to start working on a project. If they don't have a solid understanding on why, and a lot of times they will have some difficulty of associated with what they're trying to do, right? And also a lot of times there are different approaches to handle a question. And if you don't understand why, and you don't have that flexibility of changing your approach, right? Because you can still reach the same goal by using a different approach if you have a really good understanding on the goal.
Yeah, well, it's a common theme that I hear. That's the differentiator between a very good data scientist and a good data scientist is that understanding of business acumen and the why. To me, if you can articulate that, to your point, it means you understand why you did this certain model or you were doing it from a business perspective. So I think if people can articulate that in an interview, then the interviewer will hopefully get the point that they understand kind of the business need and they understand that aspect of kind of why they did that project. I guess for you, when you have your team, what do you try to do in communicating that business why to the team so they understand the reasons behind the work that you're going to have them do?
One thing I try to do is involve my team in those discussions with business. Let's say we want to start working on something, and I always try to make sure that my team has a chance to interact directly with a business stakeholder and understand what's their pain point, right? Why we want to have this project, and allow them have the chance to ask questions to understand what exactly we're trying to solve. And also, I always ask them, what's the goal? Basically, when we start a project, usually the first slide we want to have is, what is the business question we want to address? That need to be very clear. If we're not very clear about that, okay, we don't need to talk about other things. Let's focus on this first and get this solved. We're all on the same page, very clear. Then let's move on.
So kind of working backwards and reverse engineering it from the final step is kind of your process.
Right. Yeah. My process is always, okay, any project, need to be, use case driven or business driven. We need to, have a problem to solve or any, a business agenda we want to push. And then we go from there.
Makes sense. I guess during the COVID situation, a lot of investments across the board in tech have kind of been diminished. In your opinion, when it comes to data and analytics, how do you see that playing out in the future currently? Do you see there being less investments put into, data projects, or kind of what's your opinion on how that's going to play out?
In my opinion, I think there's going to be more investment in data, data platform, infrastructure, and analytics, right? The data science, machine learning, right? The AI. Because one trend we can see is that the pandemics actually speed up the digital transformation. Now, IBD has both, right? This newspaper, we still have the weekly newspaper and an online digital business. The online digital is our majority of business. And you can see that the newspaper business has suffered a bit during the crisis, but the online digital business actually is growing exponentially. So we'll see that digital transition we're being through, right? And already for quite a few years, it will speed up. And when we have that digital business make decision based on data, that is a key to have a successful digital business. So we're going to see more investment in that transition, in building up the data, infrastructure to support that business. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think they say, but data is the new oil, and then I think it's now data is gold. So, however you view oil or gold, I think both are definitely highly sought after and valued. So, I think data is in a good spot today and moving forward. So, I think we're good on that front. I guess with so much different news out there when it comes to technology, things shifting, industry trends. What do you personally do to kind of stay on top of things and stay up to date?
So for me, I try to read articles, like attend conference seminars to keep up with the trend. Another thing I think can be very important is be open to new tools, to explore some of the new tools, because some of the new tools actually can help us to keep up with the development, especially in data analytics field. It's evolving quickly. So one example is recently we onboarded Databricks. It's a relatively new platform, and the founder of the company is also the creator of Spark. And they built such a great platform that gave us a lot of flexibility of dealing with big data and have this common platform for data scientists, data engineer, and BI reporting folks to work on the same platform. And there's a lot of good features in that platform. They also have like the machine learning flow, ML flow, and that is end-to-end machine learning platform. They incorporate in that platform. Yeah, so very powerful platform. I think that's all. So I think this is one way for a company like us, with small company, to keep up with the trend and make sure that we can tap into the new development in the technology, and we to push our analytics capability, data capability, right, to the next level.
So the learning never stops. It sounds like you must be a student every day to keep
Yes.
learning new things and seeing new products and seeing how you as a data leader can leverage that in your team, and the org can be better for implementing different things and different tools.
Yes, exactly. I think nowadays the only advantage you have is, can you learn faster than other people, right? For companies, can you also evolve and learn faster organizationally than other company, right? That is how a company to be successful in today's competitive environment.
Agreed. It sounds like I got to start doing a lot of reading on my end. I think the most successful CEOs, they say, I think Zuckerberg had something a couple years back he wanted to read. I don't know, was it like X amount of books a year? And I know Bill Gates reads a lot. So obviously, some smart people out there read a lot. So definitely educating yourself consistently is a good way to take steps forward.
Yeah, agreed.
Awesome. Sushi, it's been a pleasure. I appreciated your time. If people want to connect with you or reach out if they had any questions, I'm guessing LinkedIn would be the best format.
Yes, LinkedIn is definitely a very good way to reach out to me. And you just mentioned that you listen to the podcast, and I will respond to any questions.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll all continue learning until next time. Cheers.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Anytime.